Hi, and welcome to another version of the Up and Down here, sponsored by EliteSportsBetting.com. I'm your host, Fried Egg Pauly, and I'm here with my man, Frank Frank. Frank, how's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Waiting for the second week of golf to start here in Hawaii at the Sony Open. We just got done with the good event last week at Kapalua. Had a little bit of drama towards the end there. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, nobody wanted to win, huh? I mean, it's 18 isn't that it's a daunting hole, but it's not a challenging hole from a scoring perspective for these guys. And nobody wanted to win it. They had some blustery conditions on the green. They were blowing some putts around, and we saw guys just hit weak putts, and then Xander blows it by, and he's got a two putt from, what was he, probably 30 feet away, and to
Yeah.
win the tournament. I thought it was interesting. Did you see what he said after? He said, I should have won the tournament, and everyone knows it.
Yeah.
Very Trumpian
Yeah.
response there. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was. I didn't mind. I had him up against Rom plus 165. So
Yep.
good,
Same
good
here.
showing. Good showing for him. And it was a weird finish. You usually don't see him like that. They were gonna play until the next day almost, and then JT pulls off a miracle shot. P. Reed hits a terrible putt, and he wins. I didn't feel like Thomas deserved to win. That's how good he is. That he wins when I don't think he even came close to playing that well.
Well,
For
and the thing
him,
is, like the second round, he played awful. I had him in a matchup for like one of my larger like round by round matchups of the week against Neiman in the second round when Neiman made like every putt he looked at, and Thomas just exploded. He kind of got in a little like pouty mood after three putting 17, and then he just kind of just goes to whack it on 18 and just snap hooks it in the crap to the left. I'm like, whoa, what happened here? And then kind of in typical Thomas fashion, he kind of reboots the next day and just comes out on a wanting a little bit of revenge on the course, and all of a sudden pops right back in contention.
yeah, I think him and Rory are pretty much the only guys now, at least that I've seen. That Brooks is like that steady Eddie kind of guy, and DJ's kind of steady when he's on. But JT and Rory, man, they can go from like looking completely average to shooting 57 on any given day. I mean, it's crazy the way that they can just go off at any time, and they seemingly do it once a tournament. It just depends how bad their worst round is in there, to determine whether they won or not.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is like JT's like bad rounds will like look like he shot 75. You look at the scorecard and he shot 70. Right? That's the amazing thing about JT.
Yeah, he finds a way to hold it together. Even the hole that he wanted on. I mean, he hit a chunk three wood, and as soon as he hits it, he's like, "Oh, I chunked it." And then he tells Jimmy Johnson, he's like, "It's over," but I missed it, and it cleared by about a foot,
Yeah.
and trickled into the fairway there. So
I don't think he wants to see that second shot on Kapalua in the plantation course for a while, considering how bad he hooked the one where he was trying to hit it way right and sling it in the regulation, right? When he had the one
just
shot lead
snapped it in there.
and just
Yeah,
snapped
it
it
snapped
in.
in there.
Yeah.
Reed putted the lights out in typical Reed fashion. That's the way that he can win. At any course, he has to do that to win. His wedge game was like pretty decent, but he putted the lights out. I was pretty depressed with Neiman. Having him 50-1. He was uh, in the lead. Like, what do you have? A two-shot lead, and I think it even got up to three on Saturday or on Friday, and then
Yep.
he had hole 9, I think it is, or hole 8 or 9. He's got less than 200 yards into the par 5 and hits a full chunk into the hazard, drops, makes his 6, and then he gets back in it on Saturday, and he finished the last 4 holes, which are relatively easy, 5, 5, 5, 5, and that was pretty much the end of them. And he loses by a couple strokes. It's like if he just shoots, 3 under on those like 5 or 6 holes that he should have shot 3 or 4 under on, he's right there at the end too. It's just that was tough to stomach, but it was a good showing. If I got a 50-1 guy and he finishes 5th, I'm not too depressed about it, I
Well,
guess.
you can ask kind of a chip in the chair there. Have a guy within 3 or 4 shots going into Sunday, just so you got a little bit of sweat, and over the long run, you're going to be hitting more winners than not. on that in terms of being profitable. So.
Yep, and he did exactly what we talked about, right? Like that was why I was hesitant to play him. He was in Australia. He was just chunking shots and whiffing shots away, right? And he did it a couple times on those holes when that was the difference between him winning or not.
Okay, so now this week we move to the the other event in Hawaii, the Sony Open, hosted at Wailea Country Club. What are your initial thoughts on that? We might have lost Frank here. Frank, you there? You there, Frank?
Yeah, sorry, I froze out on you there.
Yeah.
What was the last you heard?
No, so just talking about the Sony Open being at Wailea Country Club, and want to know what some of your initial thoughts or leans were for this event. Anything different than the past week?
Yeah, the course is very different, despite still being in Hawaii. Par 70, short, tight. You got to hit the fairways. You don't. It's not a demanding length by any means. The greens are easy to hit, but you got to be in the fairways to give yourself good looks, right?
Yeah.
Emphasis for me this week is driving accuracy. I prefer the shorter hitters because they're generally better wedge and iron players, because that's where they make it up, and they're better putters. And that's you're going to have to shoot way under par this week to win. And you're going to probably have to put the lights out because there's going to be guys that are doing that.
Yeah, I agree with that. And the one thing, based upon the way the golf course is constructed, is like players have to learn to move the ball both ways. But there's about 4 or 5 holes where you're going to have to move the ball right to left, such as like the 18th hole, which is like a 90-degree dogleg par 5. So a player who can move it right to left, big advantage. I think 16 is a dogleg left par 4 where guys are laying up with an iron, but you can have a little bit of draw on it, get a little further around the corner instead of hitting 8 iron in the green, you're hitting gap wedge or pitching wedge. So, players who are able to maneuver the ball a little bit better than others can have success here. And we've seen that in the past based on, the guys that we have, seen being contention here. So who's your top guy on the board this week that you're playing from your outrights?
Well, I'm avoiding most of the top guys, in the 20s and down range. I'm just not going to play Thomas at 5-1, whether it's justified or not. I've got him like right on market there. Webb Simpson's up there. He's come on strong, and he fits the bill here perfectly, right? Short hitter, accurate, like you said, works the ball. He does hit a nice draw in there. Patrick Reed, same thing, 12-1. He plays a draw. He flights the ball well. Good wedge player. Can get really hot with the putter. And then you got these mid-range guys like Matsuyama, Morikawa, Sungjae Im. I love Sungjae Im, but I'm not going to play him at 20-1. Kuchar's my biggest fade on the board, 22-1. But the first guy I'm interested in again is Neiman. He was like 35-1 yesterday. He's down to 25-1. I still like him a little bit there. Not a very big edge for me, but if he can stop hitting these full chunks into hazards, I think he's going to win. I mean, he gained 3.5 strokes tee to green last week, even with his couple whiffs. He gained 3.5 strokes putting. I think if he does that again this week and he plays as well as he did, I think he's going to win. I really do. It's not a great price considering, what we got him at last week, but you're not getting the big horses, I guess, at the top as much as you were last week either.
Yeah, I could definitely see that this week. And in terms of your comment about Webb, yeah, Webb is probably the highest guy in terms of all my models. So like in a normal week, I kind of construct like 3 or 4 different models. One of them uses like past course history, so I'm able to run and figure out who fits good based on that. I have one where I look at basically break down the course hole by hole and figure out what shots are needed on every shot, and then pretty much can construct a model off of that to figure out what player fits that. And then also have one where I basically look at courses that are similar on tour and how players have performed there. Because you might have a guy who's played, courses that are similar to this. Might be Harbor Town, I think where they play the Wyndham, Sedgefield, even like a little bit like Innsbruck where they play, down in Tampa.
Yeah, and his
courses
broke very
where you have to work the ball a little bit off the tee, not necessarily with driver, but then, have a lot of shots coming in from the 120 to 160 range. And, it's not necessarily a putting contest from there, but if guys are just hitting.
Kind of is.
Hitting from that distance, so this week you're going to be hitting a lot of greens. And if you're precise with your irons, you're going to have a lot of birdie putts inside 15 feet, and you're going to have to go low. So you're going to have to make birdies. The winning score this week is going to be 20 under.
Yeah,
barring any massive windy days or conditions being super firm, which I don't think it's going to be based upon how much rain we've seen in Hawaii of late. You're going to have to go towards, the guys who made birdies. So like Webb for me was, top 7 in all three bases of the model there for me. So like that was best on the board by a mile. So, but the only thing is his price is like 10 to 13 to 1 across all the books, which to me is just too low. So I'll find other ways to get exposure to Webb this week, but I just can't play him as an outright at that price. If he was 20 to 1, I would have been all over.
Yeah, 20 to 1 I'm in. I have him like right at 12 to 1, which when I ran the model, I was shocked, and then I saw his price was 12 to 1. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. You don't see guys like Webb at 12 to 1, especially I have him below average from a strokes gain perspective driving the ball this week, and still 12 to 1. That's how good he is with everything else. And like you said, accuracy is king. I don't really care how far he's hitting it, and that's where he's losing his strokes from a strokes gain perspective. Is that second component of the driving perspective is his lack of length, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter this week. I've got him, top 10 pretty much across the board in every other statistical category this week.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I like looking at. Look at a bunch of strokes gain stats as well. But when I look at these like corollary courses to where you can't hit driver to tee, is actually like strokes gained off the tee stats are actually up towards the top, because he's not, distance doesn't matter when you're playing, let's say, a Harbor Town or if you're playing, even like a Sedgefield, the Wyndham, right? Mm-hmm. It's more about just getting in the correct place and giving yourself opportunity to green. And he does that. He's a very accurate player off the tee. He's not afraid to club down, hit his 3-wood out there, leave himself 150, hit it to 12 feet, make the putt, right?
And those shorter clubs allow him to work the ball, like you're saying this week.
Exactly. Yeah. So my first player on the board is actually a little bit further down, and that's going to be at 50 to 1. That's going to be JT Poston. So Poston's a very solid player. Played last week at Tournament Champions, had a solid finish. I think finished 11th. He's played very well at some of these other tracks that I talked about as corollary courses, including Sedgefield, right, from last year. Mm-hmm. I believe that's where he got his win. And yeah, he's top 10 in 2 of my 3 models here. He's only played the Sony Open, I think, twice, and hasn't really had great finish. He's finished, I think, 20th and 64th. And I think that's what's kind of keeping the price depressed a little bit, because he's a guy who's, a very good putter as well. And when he's on, he's very streaky. So I think at 50 to 1, there's definitely a little bit of value there. So he's definitely my first place league. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, I have at 50 to 1, I have about a 0.5% edge on him. So not enough for me to play it, but it is an edge, which is rare in golf. On the golf board, there's not a ton of edges around, and certainly not very many big ones. So at 0.5% edge, like I said, not enough to play, but I've got him above average driving, above average approach, well above average around the green, and a well above average putter this week. He fits the bill, right? Like you said, he can putt it. He's trending nicely. Like he finished last year pretty good. He got a win in there. And I think anyone that's trending, in an upwards momentum coming into this tournament can win. Kuchar won here by 4. When JT won here, he won by 7. He shot like 59, 64, 65, 65 or something like that.
And I think
guys can get hot here, and you need those guys that are going to – it's going to come down to whether these guys putt. And you got to take the guys that are most likely to get hot with the putter, and he's certainly one of them.
And I think one of the other things to keep in mind is, a lot of these guys are coming in off of long layoffs, not playing for 10 weeks. So we've seen this in the past. A lot of guys who may not necessarily played great at Kapalua, but at least played, tended to play pretty well the next week. So that's Poston's a guy who played pretty decent last week at 11th, and, wouldn't be surprised to see him in the top. So my next guy on the board is another guy that played last week but didn't play great, and that's Brendan Todd. So Brendan Todd won twice in the fall. And, one of the weird corollaries of this is talking about, like, of course, it's similar is the Mayakoba, where they have the OHL Classic, right? So we've had Pat Kazire win there and win here, back to back, whatever, the 3-month, 4-month span. Saw Matt Kuchar do it last year, and that's the event that Brendan Todd won this past year. So Todd's kind of a shorter hitter, semi-accurate, good iron player, and has the ability just to be unconscious with the putter at times, as we saw during the fall series. Mm-hmm. So 60-1 seemed a little bit of a gift to me because I have his, line there. I think it should be closer to about 40-1. What are your thoughts on
Todd? Yeah, I've got him right around 50. So 61, again, a small edge that I'm not playing. We talked about this last week a little bit. He played well at those events that don't have shot trackers. So for me, it's hard to gather the information where he was playing well and whatnot. From my model's perspective, he's a top 10 putter this week. He's good around the greens. His tee to green game historically has not been good, but like we said, a lot of that could be because of the length that he lacks. His putter is, so far this year he's been unbelievable. Putting. He almost won 3 weeks in a row.
Yep.
Because he was putting the lights out, and this is another course. Kazire won here 2 years ago. Todd is like he's acting exactly how Kazire acted. What was that, 2 years ago or last year?
Yeah, it's 2 years ago.
Where he was dominating the fall because he could putt well, and these courses at the beginning of the year aren't particularly hard, right?
Anything inside 15 feet seemed like a gimme to me. Just putting it into
right.
basketball.
Right. So he's very much like Kazire to me. I think he's going to continue to do well. I'm curious to see how my model catches up to him because, like I said, I missed those weeks when he was playing really well, so you kind of just have to make some assumptions. And like I said, I still have him around 50-1, even all those things considered. So it's really not, that far behind from the market. So I would think that if I had those weeks factored in, then I would have an edge on him here again this week. I'm going to be looking in the same range with Harmon at 50-1 this week. I've got him 13th in approach. He's a short hitter. He's an accurate guy. He can work it right to left more easily, right? And he is a great putter. He's another guy that, has had some success, especially in these early year tournaments. I believe his recent finishes are pretty good, actually, if I get into him here.
Yeah, Harmon is definitely a guy that was on my short list. Just missed my list of outrights that I was playing. Yeah, when I was talking about all these different models that I run, so if the one that actually regresses and looks at all of the shot by shots based upon what the course actually gives, he's actually 4th in that, which is pretty good for somebody who's that high of odds. So definitely a good fit there. I was talking about Harmon there.
Yeah, so I have him around 6th as for the best fit for this course. He finished T11 in his last event, T14 at the RSM. He had a couple down weeks, but in September he went T3, T14, T18. So he's trending nice. I think these early year stuff really helps him. And when he gets into the longer courses, he's going to struggle. But this course fits him as good as anybody this week. And he's a good putter and a good wedge player. And that's basically what it's going to come down to this week. So at Harmon, 50-1, I think that's a little bit of a gift. And I think no matter what, he's going to be up towards the top. He's just so consistent at these low-level tournaments.
I agree with that. I think he's definitely going to be up there. The question of you're most likely going to have a bunch of guys stacked near the top here. I would think through 36 holes, and then you're going to see somebody separate and shoot, 63 on the weekend. And we've seen it where a guy has won by, 4, 5, 6, 7 shots this course. We've seen in the past. Right. Because somebody just gets unconscious. So who's one of your next players a little bit further down the board then?
I'm gonna throw 2 out there. I haven't decided yet if I'm playing both or not. I probably will. They're small edges at 66-1. Munoz and Stewart.
And so you're seeing both at 66, you're saying?
Yeah, I I'm gonna make you hold me to this next week when Munoz is finishing 40th again this week to not play him.
Actually, no, I was looking at Munoz too this week, and there's a 70 out there on Munoz, and I actually see a 95 out there for Stewart in a couple places. So.
Yeah, so I just grabbed the Bovada odds from this morning just so for universal stuff, just for reference for the videos for the viewers. You guys can probably line shop. You're gonna want to line shop, especially with golf, because books are so different. You know, you'll see guys that are 100-1 in some places, and then they end up 60-1 in other places. So line shop around. For reference right now, I'll use Bovada odds, but if, you know, in the plays, I'm going to shop around and try to find the best line, for example, on the betting sheet. That being said, Munoz won twice this year with, you know, he got unconscious with the putter. He can do it again. He's not a particularly good iron player or wedge player, but he does drive it accurately for a big guy. He does drive it well, and he's good around the greens. I'm not particularly excited to play him again. It's just one of those things where, like I said, my model captured, you know, his good weeks, and then it's like, how do you discern his okay weeks? He hasn't played terrible at all. I mean, he was average last week. He had shown some flashes. He moved up the board like really quick on Friday and then kind of flamed out through the end of the week. So he reminds me of a guy that if he does get hot with the putter and he does find himself, you know, towards the top, he's super competitive. So I feel like he really drills down when he's towards the top and actually like he gets disinterested, it seems like, when he's just hanging out in the middle of the pack on Friday afternoon. And then Stewart, he's like Webb Simpson light here. He doesn't drive it well. He doesn't drive it far. He's like, 37 years old. But he's good. He's a good putter. He's been trending nicely. His more recent finishes have been pretty good this year. If I grab his results real quick.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, Munoz was 12th in that custom fit model that I'm talking about in terms of like building based upon the course. And Stewart is 17th in that. So both those guys fit that narrative there in terms of, you know, what shots are required for the course. They're very good in that respect. And we've seen Stewart play very well here in the past. So,
yeah,
you know, a high finish for him is definitely not out of the realm of possibilities here. Because I'll definitely have some action on Stewart on some other bets, whether it's, you know, top 20s or stuff like that.
Yeah, and he's T23 2 weeks ago, T10 last week. He finished 4th at Shriners, 17th at Safeway, 28th at Sanderson. So for a guy that's, you know, kind of playing well, solid golf all around, you know, I don't particularly love his chances of winning, but like we said, he throws up a 62 in there somewhere on Saturday or Sunday, and he's got a good chance to win, right? Like, this is what you're hoping for when you play a guy 66-1. But you know, he's below average driving. And he looks a lot like Webb Simpson in a way, you know, just a little bit worse all around. And, you know, he's probably should be closer to like 40 or 35-1, I think.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, so I'll toss out one other player. I did have more than like 3 outrights I played in the week because it just depends on the way the week goes. And a lot of value for me was further down the board. The last one I'll toss out is one that was a little bit of a play based on like recency bias here, is that Kevin Na finished near the bottom of the pack last week. And I feel like if he finished where JT Poston did at like 11th place, we'd see not 50-1, and you're able to get him out there, you know, 90 to 100-1 in the market. So at that price, I feel like I have to play Kevin Na just because we saw last year that he kind of, you know, broke the barrier, and I wouldn't be surprised if he wins, you know, twice this year, especially on courses like this, because we know he's one of the best putters on tour. And if he can just keep the ball in play off the tee, he will be up on the leaderboard come the weekend.
Yeah, that's his big struggle, right? Is like just not snapping it left off the tee box into water, right? Like when he won in Vegas, right, last year?
I believe so, yeah. I think
it was Vegas.
Or was it Greenbrier? I forget the exact event that he used.
One of the event, he made a you know, PGA Tour record length of putts, you know, so you know he can get hot with the putter, so I don't mind it. I have him 10th in putting this week and 17th around the greens. You add those up, and he's probably in the top 5 4 or 5 in short game for me this week as well. And like we said, with these shorter hitters, they're on the PGA Tour because they can putt well and they have good wedge play, and that's what's required this week. So it's not a coincidence that we're just taking all these guys that can't drive it. It's just because they're on the PGA Tour, they have to be doing other things well to remain on tour. And I also like taking guys that, have had success winning. I'm not one.
He won twice last year. He won at Colonial and won at the Shriners. So there's not many guys you can get, close to triple digits for a guy that won twice in the last, 6-7 months. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah. And I'm not one to believe in the clutch factor or anything like that, but I have seen in golf, and you'll see it around, it takes a lot to get over that barrier of winning or getting really close to winning. Guys that suffer heartbreak losses in playoffs or something, or choke down the stretch, they come back and win the next week all the time, right? Like you get a little bit of a taste, and then they show up the next week. So I do like taking guys, especially down the board, that have had success in winning tournaments in the past.
Okay, so moving on from the outrights, and you can find all of our outright bets every week, and including all of our other bets, top 20s, head-to-heads, all stuff like that. You can find it over at elitesportsbetting.com. Frank and I both post everything there. We have chat rooms as well, to where you can go in and ask us questions. And if you have any questions or bets, our DMs are also open on Twitter for subscribers there as well. So moving on now. Do you have any other bets besides outrights that have a lot of value this week, whether that be a matchup or a top 20 or anything like that?
Yeah, so my biggest matchups, again, and guys that have been playing golf with me this year will know that I like to fade these huge lines of the favorites. You're going to see – we saw it last week with Rahm and a few other guys. You get some ridiculous numbers from the top guy to the next few guys down. So Thomas this week, far and away the favorite, which I wholeheartedly agree with. You're getting some plus 160s and 150s on guys like Webb Simpson and Patrick Reed, which we just said they fit the bill here, right? This
will be an interesting conversation, because I am on the opposite side with one of my largest edges of the week on a matchup that you're about to talk about. So this could be a good conversation.
Well, I'm just saying in general, I'm always going to play the plus ones. I'm almost always going to play these plus 160s, plus 150 guys. Even though I think Thomas is the best golfer, I'm certainly not going to lay, minus 190 here, me personally. So, when I hate Patrick Reed, I don't think he's that good. And I think it requires him to, I don't hate Patrick Reed personally, but from a golf perspective, from an analytical perspective, it takes him so much good putting and chipping in and things like that to compete. But at plus 163 at a course that requires you to putt, it's hard for me not to take that side. And I took him Schauffele last week, 165 against Rahm.
We're both on Schauffele last week. There was basically, it should have been a coin flip, and instead we're getting plus 160 there, right?
It just seems crazy to me, even given Rahm, Rahm was very successful over in Europe, but he's not playing tough fields or tough courses over there.
And he was coming in off of getting married too, so we thought
right. The broadcast talked about it every day, even.
Exactly. In case you had the volume on, you heard that, right? So.
Yeah. So with the aspect of just this tournament being just on full putting randomness, and both these guys I think are better putters than Thomas and way worse than everything else. I'm just going to take both of them and hope that one of them beats them.
Okay. So in this respect, I'm on the kind of the exact opposite of the spectrum. So my two largest head-to-head bets of the week are Justin Thomas, who was able to get minus 165 over Reed, and then also able to get Webb Simpson minus 120 over Patrick Reed. So basically, if you look at Reed's stats from last week, he was pretty much field average, ball strike, I think slightly below, but just putted and chipped his ass off. And get to a course here now where, he's probably top 2 or 3 on tour in terms of, chipping. We saw the same thing happen in the President's Cup. Anytime he missed the green, he hit a great chip shot right by the hole. Well, you're going to be hitting 80% of greens here, so chipping really doesn't matter that much. So now we're focusing more on putting, and if you're going to have a lot of putts from, the 10 to 20 foot range, I, I don't know if I like Patrick Reed as much as a course to where it's a little bit more difficult, and he has to scramble and make those 5, 6 footers for par. And I just don't trust a guy who we know can go off the rails to run ball strike. I mean, you can shoot 74, which if we're doing tournament matchups here over the course of 4 days, I don't know if he's going to be able to put 4 good rounds together, whereas Webb Simpson is pretty much your automatic going to shoot 67, 67, 66, 66, and finish, let's say probably somewhere between 8th and 14th on average here. So you're basically saying is, will Patrick Reed finish better than that position? And I don't think that's the case more often than not. So, that's why I like Webb there. And Justin Thomas has been on a complete tear to where, Justin Thomas's bad weeks have been, extremely high finishes, and his good weeks are near the top. So if he plays like he's been playing, if we're just reading off his, his starts over the last, 6 months, he's gone 9th, 11th, 12th, 12th, 1st, 9th, 4th, 1st, 17th, 5th, 1st. So if he's just able to kind of continue that trend and put another top 15 finish there, it's once again betting, will Patrick Reed finish top 15? And the market doesn't necessarily think that Reed is going to do that based upon the odds that are out there, right? If you have a guy who's Thomas, who's whatever, 6 to 1, 5 to 1 to win, Reed is sitting there, 15-ish to win, right? That's a big
12
difference.
to 15.
12 to 15, right? So I'm leaning towards taking, Thomas there for a pretty sizable amount just because I just trust him more than Patrick Reed.
Yeah, if you're getting him 165, I mean, we're basically no bigging this thing because I'm getting him 165 on the other side. Like I said, it's not a bet I'm in love with. I'm taking that wholeheartedly in hopes that Reed goes crazy putting. Like that's the whole gambit with him, right? Like I'll look at it right now. He's got, in my model, he's 42nd off the tee this week, 53rd on approach. And he's 12 to 1. It's not great, but he's top 10 around the green. And he's top 10 putting, and it's like, like I said, I'm not in love with it, but I'm just betting on, and this is why I hate it from an analytical perspective. We know that putting is mostly random, but he's been doing it well, and now I'm kind of forced to just be like, okay, I'll take the plus 165, and if he gains 5 strokes putting again, then he has a chance to win, right? Like that's about it. I like Neiman in some matchups this week. No real big edges. But if you look at, on the board, he's a decent dog to Sung Jae. I love Sung Jae. He's like my spirit animal. Plays every week.
He's had like 10 weeks off in a row though, so this is going to be
it's dangerous. He did play really well at
besides the President's Cup, right? But in terms of like actual like stroke play events, so
yeah,
it's going to be like feel awkward for him considering he usually plays 10 events in a row.
Yeah, it's rare air for him, but I'm sure he's been swinging it. I am positive, but I do like Neiman's a dog to him, and it probably should be more around pick'em. Plus 100 there. So I like Neiman in some matchups. And then, we're betting Harman and Munoz, but Harman's a little bit of a dog to Munoz, and I don't mind that play much at all either. So just my typical week of, betting my outrights and betting them in matchups to make sure it's double painful when they lose.
Or double magic when it hits, right? So
yeah, well, I'm not very optimistic.
Yeah, so like the Sony Open historically is one of my better weeks. So I have all my historical results like for the last 6-7 years, and like the Sony Open's been like a top 5 profitable event for me, I think, for the last 7 years. So hopefully that trend continues this year.
Yeah.
The only reason I think that's the case is that you're able to really narrow it down and figure out what golfers go to this course, and it's usually opposite from what a lot of the top players are in terms of like whenever they have like a lot of the bombers here. Or I've seen guys like Hideki Matsuyama at this course just play god awful, right? Missed 3 or 4 cuts, finished 50th some of the time. Whereas like the guy you're going to get good numbers against those guys, and you're getting Kuchar's like plus 130 against Matsuyama, and I'll take that all day because Matsuyama's coming off of a long break besides the President's Cup. Kuchar played last week. I'll take that all day long. You're talking about that plus money matchups, right?
Yeah, yeah, and you're right in that. I know we talked about it a lot so far, but you're right in that. Like historically, in currently, the best golfers in the world are the ones that hit the ball far, and can hit their long irons well and that dominate par fives. And it's the complete opposite this week. It's like I liked your comparison to Innisbrook. It is very similar to Innisbrook in that. You just kind of get the ball out there and then just hope your putts from 15 feet keep going in the hole.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's not how guys win. I mean, we saw Thomas isn't a great putter. He's the best golfer in the world. Tiger's historically, I mean, he's made great par saves, but historically Tiger was never like some great putter. Like, was he ever as good of a putter?
I think Tiger in his prime might have been the best putter on tour for about a 5 to 7 year time.
Well, yeah, but in today's standard, I mean, he's still the best iron player in the world for all I care, and he has been historically, the best iron player, and he hit the ball really far. He wasn't accurate, so it's just this course is just the exact opposite of that, in that you just kind of get it out there and shape some shots around, and like Tiger's current game would fit here really well, right? Like shape some shots around and hit a wedge next to the hole and tap in. So. It's just the complete opposite of what we're usually seeing for guys that can get around here. Now that doesn't mean I don't think Thomas can win. It's just I'm not betting him at 5-1. That's all. Yeah,
it's impossible. The only time you put exposure to Thomas is if he shoots like 68 in the first round. He's like 5-6 back, and you can get him at, let's say, 20-1. Then there's possibly a chance, especially if the guy who tees off in the PM shoots not bad, but maybe just not great, and then you go out the next morning and shoot 60, then maybe you add a sprinkle on Thomas, but other than that, you can't touch a guy that's 5-1. I mean, that's just never silly at that point. So this is a good video here, Frank, once again. So if anyone is watching this video, all of our action is on elitesportsbetting.com. These videos will also be up there in the future. So we're going to be doing the up and down every week, recording it on Tuesday mornings. We'll be up late Tuesday morning, early Tuesday afternoon. For subscribers to see on there. We're doing the first couple of these, posting to YouTube, just kind of as a free preview, just for some guys, as golf season is starting. And as the year goes on, we'll be moving it behind the paywall on the site there. Do you have any last words here, Frank?
No, I just, finally got a full field and some cut event here, and we'll see how it goes.
All right. So for Frank and for Paulie, I'm signing off for elitesportsbetting.com.